Sherrie Andre was born, raised, and is currently living on what she calls occupied Wampanoag and Narragansett land in what is called Rhode Island. And I agree with her phrasing of that. That's apparently it's fair to say that, Sherrie. She's a co-founder of FANG, Fighting Against Natural Gas, an organization dedicated to building, supporting, and escalating nonviolent resistance to the natural gas industry. With FANG, Sherrie has worked on campaigns to stop frack gas infrastructure projects in Rhode Island and to integrate sexual assault and interpersonal violence, racism, and intersectionality into the climate change conversation. She's currently working with and learning from Frontline groups fighting the Cove Point export terminal in Lusby, Maryland. She has worked in the domestic violence and sexual assault and advocacy field for 8 years. She's heavily motivated by her Thai Puerto Rican background to examine cultural integration and community services, particularly those serving people of color. She has worked with many nonprofit organizations in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and on the Yankton Sioux Reservation, South Dakota. So we're very happy Sherrie is here. You might also recall that Sherrie is a tree sit activist, tree sit resistor, sat in a tree waiting for the rain. You got down before the rain started, though, didn't you?
No, I can't.
And we're very proud of Sherrie's activism and her direct action, her courage, and we're very happy to have Sherrie here as our speaker. Sherrie Andre.
Sorry, my papers are all folded, which makes it hard to do that easy transition of moving the paper over during a speech, so it's kind of smooth this. So, Tony said I was born and raised in Rhode Island, and co-founded and organized with an organization called FANG, Fighting Against Natural Gas. We began as a network of individuals collected from groups along the East Coast fighting the fracked gas industry, from fracking to pipelines, to compressor stations to export terminals. For the past year and a half, the chapter here in Rhode Island has been resisting the expansion of Spectra Energy's fracked gas pipeline expansion.
Sherrie, could you speak into the microphone a little bit more, please?
No, can't hear you.
Spectra is a Houston-based Fortune 500 company that has proposed 3 expansions to their pipeline that brings fracked gas from Pennsylvania and Appalachia into the Northeast. The fracked gas expansions, 3 of them, would cost over $5 billion, the first of which is under construction right now. As part of this expansion, a gas compressor station in Burrillville would nearly double in capacity, leading to more pollution and noise in a town that already contains 2 interstate gas pipelines, 2 gas compressor stations, and a gas power plant. Recently, Spectra has announced plans to expand the compressor station a second time in Burrillville. And this month, Governor Raimondo announced a proposal to build a $700 million fracked gas pipeline power plant on Spectra's property in Burrillville. Our campaign began, like many others, with research, letter writing, and traditional tactics of meeting with government approvers. Our concerns were ignored. We escalated. We have met with elected officials, held sit-ins in Senator Whitehouse's and Senator Reid's offices, marched from Burrillville to Providence, shut down one of Spectra's main offices twice. We consistently support the Frontline organization in Burrillville called BASE, Burrillville Against Spectra Expansion, and still do a host of other work. We do not allow them to ignore us any longer. In May, I launched a tree sit to prevent trees from being cut to delay construction of the compressor station in Burrillville. My intention was to stay for 30 days, but I was aggressively removed within 12 hours. The police and other rescue personnel cut a fence and chainsaw trees nearby. They brought in dogs, circling, barking, and clawing at my tree. Finally, the dogs were released into woods to find the other protesters, even though I had explained to the police that there wasn't any others. They then extracted me by backing a fire truck up to the tree and extending the ladder with a bucket up to my platform. None of the officers were tied into this bucket securely to remove me. Climbing a tree and setting up a sit is an arduous task, involving mental and physical preparation. My life was on hold. I could not plan ahead, and I could not plan for what would happen after. Training demanded hours of my time and the healing of injuries. Though the sit was cut short, the hours I was up there were filled with a mixture of emotions. Fear, once I was discovered I was alone, but also surrounded by 5 to 12 men at any time, yelling, playing bad cop, good cop, threatening to get me down by any means necessary. And then hope. It came when I received phone calls from those who were impacted by these projects, telling me how proud they were of me and how I was saving them. My police liaison was detained and in jail for 11 hours without food or water. I joined her and was in my cell for 9 hours without food, water, or the menstrual products that I brought with me but was not allowed to have. These are only a few of the degrading tactics that exemplify the abuse of power common to the police. But these were not things I was unaware of. They were things I prepared myself for while consistently acknowledging that it is a privilege to choose to be arrested, when so many do not have this choice. I did this for 2 reasons. I was angry. Why are corporations like Spectra allowed to profit off of our poor health? How is it that they are not held responsible for the damage to the earth, sexual trauma inflicted by fracking workers, or even the $30 a month I now have to pay for my asthma inhaler? Despite all the suffering in this world, I believe strongly in community. We will only survive and prosper if we take care of each other. If we actually are the good neighbors we say we are, we will build a community that fights together, that supports each other, and that plays together. With that, I ask that you join us in the fight against Spectra. And if you choose to take up that fight, know that Spectra is not our only opponent. They are one institution in a society shaped by interlocking systems of oppression. FANG acknowledges the existence of and believes the dismantling of our racist system that consistently inflicts oppression and violence against Black people of color, non-Black people of color, and Indigenous populations. If you choose to join us, not only will we no longer allow our elected officials to ignore us while supporting corporations, we will no longer allow the whitewashed environmental movement to ignore the suffering of those under the white supremacist society while they utilize the nonviolent direct action tactics that were created by non-white people. I climbed a tree for our future, for our community, and for those of us who have to use nonviolent direct action for survival, and understand what it is to have civil disobedience and ancestral blood flowing through our veins. We need to rise up for more than the protection of our property on stolen lands. You need to rise up for my brothers and sisters.